Hello again. Monday, we woke up at 6 a.m. and jumped out of bed to go to the hotel lawn to see if we could catch a glimpse of Kilimanjaro, as she had up until now been covered in cloud. Hooray! At last she was clear, and we could see Kibu Peak, 5,895 meters, and Mwenzi Peak, 5,149 meters. Marangu, where we were staying, is still 25 kilometers from Kilimanjaro, and so the mountain looked disappointingly small. Anyway, we were pleased to have seen her. We were all ready at 8:30 a.m. and we picked up Kunda, who was taking us on a day tour. First to Lake Chala, which is a 3-kilometer wide crater lake. The water in the lake was a brilliant turquoise, and there were sheer cliffs draped in tropical greenery all around. The lake itself was invisible until you virtually toppled over the crater rim. We then headed back towards Moshi and around back up into the foothills of Kilimanjaro, where Marangu is situated. We went up a most scenic pass to see a 102-year-old Catholic cathedral with very interesting stained glass windows, one with a local black man being blessed. Kunda then led us back into Marangu to a local beer garden where we had a drink, and then we visited the market next door that only operates on Mondays and Tuesdays. What a colourful sight! Everything from dried beans and fish to Chinese skirts, fresh green peppers, and huge orange carrots, plus brightly printed zip-up Musa-style bags, which we bought 2 of to put our mattresses in. It was a real sensory delight, and Kunda took good care of us the whole time, even carrying our purchases for us. Supper was very healthy, with fresh carrots, brinjal, garlic, tomatoes, and green pepper all in our stew. Tuesday, we left at 7:30 a.m. and headed straight for Arusha National Park. It was $110 to enter for the day, but what a wonderful day we had, seeing an abundance of animals: giraffe, zebra, elephant, warthog, buffalo, waterbuck, duikers, Kirk's dik-dik, baboon, hippo, bushbuck, blue monkeys, and the opulent black and white colobus. Birds were prolific, the most spectacular being the pale-billed hornbill. We sat and had lunch by the Mamela Lakes with stilts and plovers keeping us company. The park encompasses the Ngorongoro crater, a spectacular extinct volcanic crater, Mount Meru, Africa's 5th highest mountain, and the Mamela Lakes, which are a group of shallow alkaline lakes, each with different mineral content. It was altogether a spectacular day, and we only left the park at 6 p.m. We camped at Colobus campsite just outside the park for $10, so that was not too bad. Wednesday, we drove through Arusha town to Mezarani Snake Park, which was run by Barry Bales, an ex-South African. Through him, we had arranged to take an organized safari into Ngorongoro and Serengeti for 2 nights and 3 days, as they charge a huge premium for non-Tanzanian vehicles, and we could take the package tour and stay in lodges for about the same price as camping in our own vehicles. We had a day of laundry on Wednesday as we were leaving early on Thursday, and we would be back at the same campsite on Saturday, where we would be able to watch the rugby on satellite TV, a treat that Dave was looking forward to. Later on Wednesday afternoon, we went back to Arusha town to go to the internet cafe. We had been warned about the crime in Arusha, so Dave went into the internet and I sat in Garfield to guard her. Well, to cut a long story short, they stole 4 of the 6 bolts off the freewheel hub on Dave's side while I was in the car, obviously with the intention of stealing the freewheel hub. But luckily, a policeman saw them and called me and drew my attention to it. So, I'm afraid I'm not a very good car guard. However, this was the first bit of crime we had encountered on our trip, so we couldn't complain. And Berry at Mezarani Snake Park was able to give us more bolts. So all was well that ended well. Thursday, we left our home on wheels in our Fun Safaris Land Cruiser with our guide Livingston and drove for about 3 hours past Lake Manyara and to the Ngorongoro gate. After the gate formalities, we headed up through the forest to the crater rim. What a spectacular sight! But it was really chilly, and by the time we stopped further around the rim to have our packed lunches, we had all donned our winter woolies. We carried on down the far side of the crater rim towards Serengeti. Serengeti is derived from a Maasai word meaning endless plains. We reached the Serengeti and walked up a kopi, which is a little mountain, to a view site and just stood and took in the sheer vastness of the plains for a few minutes. We then started driving through them, and what a treat. In the afternoon and on Friday, we saw 24 different animals, including a cheetah with 2 cubs, a leopard in a tree, several tree-climbing lions, baboon, crocodiles, gazelle, giraffe, African rock python, etc., etc. It was so exciting to see the cheetah, and especially the leopard, as I have been looking for one in parks for years with no success. We identified 29 different birds, including auger buzzard, marabou stork, and the white stork, secretary bird, various vultures, Corey bustard, white-headed buffalo weaver, bare-faced go-away bird, etc., etc. The only bad part of the day was the tsetse flies that we encountered, luckily only for a brief period. We actually had quite fun for the brief period, as everyone became violent killers, and there was much hilarity with all the swatting and squashing. Tsetse are evil little flies with wings that cross over on their backs, and they bite. And some people have a really bad reaction to the bites that can last up to a week. They are resistant little beasts and do not die when you swat them. So after swatting them, you literally have to squash them with great force and, of course, glee. Sometimes they are full of blood, so it is all quite gruesome. We reached our lodge on the northern edge of the grass plains at about 6 p.m. And what a treat it was to be shown to luxury rooms with hot water and, best of all, a bath. I thought I'd had my last bath at the beginning of March for 2007, so the bath was a wonderful surprise. And even Dave lay in the bath for 10 minutes. He normally only likes showering. The Serenera Lodge where we were staying was completed in 1971 and was built mainly out of wood and glass, but it was built all around the existing boulders. In the lodge in the evening, we saw a hyrax, which is apparently related to an elephant. After a wonderful evening meal, we collapsed into our beds, exhausted but very content. Friday, Livingston picked us up at 7:30 a.m. and we set off a bit further north to look for migrating zebra and wildebeest. In November, the short rains start and the wildebeest migrate from the north of the Serengeti down south to the plains to eat the new grass that is rich in minerals needed to rear their young. Apparently, in February and March, for about 3 to 4 weeks, 90% of the female wildebeest give birth, flooding these southern plains with thousands of calves every day. This is a sight I would love to see. Then in May, when the rains stop, the wildebeest and zebra set off from the southern plains to the north to the dry season range. We did not see great running herds as perhaps I had expected, but in the middle to top part of the plains, we did see huge herds of zebra and wildebeest all heading north. We then headed back down south towards the Ngorongoro crater and to our lodge on this crater rim. Once again, we enjoyed and appreciated the sheer luxury of hot baths and hotel dinners. Saturday, we headed down into the crater early in the morning in thick rainy mist, but luckily it cleared once we reached the bottom. And although it was still a cold day, and I was very glad to have Rayanne's GHS water polo jacket to snuggle into, the crater is 20 kilometers in diameter and covers 260 square kilometers. We saw buffalo, warthog, gazelle, zebra, Coke's hartebeest, jackal, hippo, elephant, white-bearded wildebeest, ostrich, black rhino, lion, waterbuck, and loads of spotted hyena. Plus, we saw lots of birds again, plenty of flamingo, crowned cranes, and Corey bustards, to name a few. There is one road down into the crater and another one up out, although I do believe there's one other road on the northern side of the crater that is for both up and down. Anyway, we went up the ascent road at lunchtime and back to the Ngorongoro lodge for lunch before heading back to Arusha in time for the Sharks rugby match. Berry and Lynn Bale of Mezarani Snake Park had put a wildebeest leg and a warthog leg on the spitbraai for us for dinner. And of course, they had the satellite TV for us to watch the rugby. They were so hospitable to us, and their park also encompasses a Maasai museum and of course the snake park. They did not charge camp fees at all and just expected campers to frequent their pub and perhaps eat their very reasonably priced food. At the time we visited, a cheese hamburger was just 12 Rand. So we would really recommend their camp if you are up that way. The afternoon ended on a high as the Sharks won, and we had phone calls from friends, Guy and Glennie, and my brother. Sunday, we left at 8:30 a.m. and headed north for the Kenyan border. It was Mother's Day, and I had phone calls and SMS messages from all my chickens. I love them all so much. Dave printed me an A4 color photograph of my 3 children taken at Calvin's wedding, and I had it hanging right in front of me over the cubbyhole so that I could look at them all day while we traveled and I did my tapestry or read to Dave because I was reading a book about Africa. We crossed the border at lunchtime and said goodbye to Tanzania. The costs in Tanzania for the 23 days we spent there were as follows. In addition, I spent 1,078 Rand on Brat travel guide books on the various countries we were still going to visit. These travel guides are really good, and I would recommend them to anybody traveling to a country in Africa. The only other point of interest is that the most extravagant thing we bought in Tanzania was a small bottle of Marmite for 45 Rand. In the afternoon, we traveled past Nairobi and headed straight for Lake Naivasha, only arriving at 6 p.m., so it was a long day of travel. Luckily, I have a microwave with me, and the lamb chops were soon defrosted on the top of Garfield's bonnet. If you found this video interesting, we would appreciate a thumbs up. Goodbye, and we will see you again next time.
Please like and subscribe and hit the bell icon for notification of our next video.